Yeah. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Put Your Family First podcast, season 7. We already got a caller from Belle Isle. No, that's my phone. So welcome, and today is gonna be a good day. You need me to move on? You need me to be in the mic? She need me to be in the mic. She want me in the mic. I can't stand these headphones and mics, but I got to do what I'm told. Obedience. Right. Anyway, today is a good day. Hello, Dr. Heather.
Hello.
We got Brother Dave back in the building today. Yeah. Brother Dave.
Hey.
Good. So we got a special guest today. Before we bring him on, if you can you kick off that EMIY apparel commercial for us real quick? There's a reason for the season that we greasing.
Okay. Slip.
Yes, the transition. So before we really get into this conversation and bring my brother Jasmine Spain on from North Carolina, you good, bro? Before we bring him on, we kicked it off because we kicked off the ceremony for our Emmy Fear of God, Fear of Love t-shirt, where we will be giving money to the children in Sudan. So that's the first thing. Whenever you purchase the Fear of Love shirt, we're going to send some proceeds to Sudan. In the past, I've done the Martin Luther King Memorial where when I was selling them out the trunk, Dave, I raised $1,000 and sent it to the Martin Luther King Memorial, right? We've always been involved in causes. 7. This is 8 now for us. And we're going to launch on August 31st a movement in our brand for girls, women, and athletes, right? Mm-hmm. And the message is pretty heavy and pretty strong. We're going to get involved there. But I just wanted to kick that off before we got into that, for us, to set the tone that we're going to have a good time, good interview today. And currently, I'll give it a little bit. Jasmine Spain, before we bring him on, Jasmine Spain currently serves as Assistant Vice President of Student Life at Pitt Community College in Greenfield, North Carolina. He holds a bachelor's degree from North Carolina Wesleyan College in Exercise Science and a master's degree from North Carolina State in Counseling Education. As a post-baccalaureate, he served in public health and faith-based communities, health, sexual behavior, and tobacco prevention and cessation. Whatever that means, I'll take that. He has almost 2 decades of higher education experience, including service in 4-year sectors, 12 in the community college sector. He serves on advisory boards for the North Carolina Community College Systems, Minority Male Success Initiatives, Student Conduct, and Title 72, whatever that is, First Generations. I'm not good at those things. Jasmine is a certified equity coach. right? So to give you a little bit more, he's the founder and chief visionary officer of the Main Initiative LLC, which stands for Males Addressing Issues and Needs. That is a personal and professional enhancement consulting agency focused on education, cultural competence. I met this brother at the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, and we hit it off right away. And it was, he's very inquisitive. He's going to ask a lot of questions. He's going to get to know you. And one of his things is you good, bro. And that's part of his initiatives from the Main Initiative. Please welcome my friend and brother, Roundhead Jasmine Spain.
Oh man.
What's good, brother?
Hey man, I can't call it brother. I can't call it peace, family. Peace to Detroit. What's it looking like in the Motor City right now?
Warm.
Oh yeah, it's pretty active, brother.
And warm.
And warm.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's pretty active. And so Jazz, let me see what she got on here.
Of course, I have some other things.
All right, let's see what you holding over here. Okay.
This is about the gaps in wellness voice. Pass that to Dave, please.
Yes. So the first thing, because I want to make sure that we get right into these things for you. What you need? No. Okay. And so the first question, Jazz, is most definitely we need you to tell us a little bit about who you are, and let's get this thing popping.
Yeah. I think bios don't really do people justice.
Exactly.
I think it's one of those things that just kind of gives you this long list of credentials that people have, where they went to school at, awards, this, that, and the third. So I really don't put much stock in them because you really don't know who that person is. I will say I'm a man of God. I will say that I am I'm the son of Helen Reed and Kirby Spain. I am a black man who has had various experiences that exceed beyond just the normal black dad story of growing up in a single parent home without no father. We're talking about someone who's overcome some levels of sexual abuse, suicidal ideation, suicide attempt, mental health diagnosis, but all of that to also say I've succeeded with bipolar, to get right into it. Being in a space where I was once a hypocrite, a brother who didn't trust black men because of the relationship with his father, to realizing that he's mentoring and developing programs for young men of color. So dealing with that hypocrisy, and then going through a process of forgiveness and allowing God to deal with me in a space that of hate, anger, distrust, and then bouncing back to do the work that he's called me to do. So I'll say that from a space of who am I? I'm a child of God who's I would consider that as who has been broken, but also repaired and healed.
Blessings. Mm-hmm. Blessings.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's everything, my brother. And that's interesting to learn and know, right? Because you've been doing such good work, and the fact is that you are a lot of people might not notice about you, and for those of you who do notice about you, you're a very supportive brother. The one thing I can say, and for you, you and Kelly really are two brothers that I can say that significantly make sure that you are supportive, and you're very humble about it, and that's a good thing. Yeah. All right, so
I learned that from you, though. I learned that from you in Louisville.
in Louisville, we chopped it up.
Yeah.
I don't know, we stayed at each other's face the whole time. Like we really got into some very in-depth conversations. So I appreciate that. The thing I want to learn more about Jasmine is his fatherhood mentor story. How many guys, how many people have you mentored, right, in the position that you've been, and how many? What do you believe is your impact as a mentor to as many as you've mentored, because you've really been at this for a second?
Yeah, man, I won't be able to put a number on it. Those that I've had an opportunity to have an impact, the lives I've had an opportunity to have an impact in, I'll just say that each one that God has placed in front of me, you know, and I'll say that my story in regards to mentorship and the impact is I know that I'm here placed on this earth to create opportunities for brothers like myself and like others who have had experiences where that if they had a space where they could release, discuss, talk, cry, heal, ask questions, be challenged, to challenge others, then I'm more than confident that there will be brothers who will be a lot further along in life in regards to wisdom, healing, understanding their calling. I mean, shoot, the ability to have dialogue, accept constructive criticism, things of that nature. So I know that that's what I'm put on this earth to do. And so by default, me being able to put those things in place, I've been able to provide a level of mentorship that exceeds beyond just the one-on-one relationship or what people may have this picture of what mentorship looks like.
That's awesome, right?
And I'll say to Brother Calvin that I work in higher education, obviously. So that's one population when we start talking about mentorship,
right?
And we start taking a look at Black males, men of color that are in higher education and their ability to navigate through that life, because that's a whole nother beast in itself. But then you have those on the outside and doing the community engagement, the civil engagement, the public schools. So I've had an opportunity. God's blessed me with the opportunity to be in front of a lot of Black men and boys where mentorship has played a critical role in my development and their development.
Oh yeah, you most definitely benefit. That's awesome. Dave, you got a question?
No, I just want to commend you for representing Christ, and at the same time, as you presented that this is your walk, this is your journey, I like to say you validate the term being an overcomer, because you overcame much. And that gives people hope that don't disappoint. You are a good representation of when men take a stand firm and believe and hold fast to their faith and keep fighting the good fight of faith. Yes, we can be truly an image bearer of Christ. So I commend you right now. I'll ask some other questions later as we go forward.
Dr. Heather?
Thank you, Brother David.
Questions. I'm sure this is going to come up, but I'm just going to go ahead and jump ahead like I always do. Tell us about you good, bro, and the brand that you're wearing, and then where did that emerge, please?
All right. So as Brother Calvin mentioned earlier about the main initiative, it kind of stems back to when I was in college, and I knew when I was in college I was dismissed for poor performance, some activities that I shouldn't have been involved in. Well, I had an opportunity to be readmitted. And in the process of being readmitted, I was able to kind of take a look at Black males in higher education in general. And I'm talking about brothers that I was going back and forth to class with, in the gym hooping with, going to programs, things going on in the dorms. And you start to get to understand that, outside of the classroom in the other areas, you get to see the full picture of a person. All right. So you graduate. So I graduated, started working in public health and working in faith-based communities. And then in those communities, working with those in regards to tobacco cessation, tobacco prevention, but also sexual behaviors. And you start to engage with brothers as well. And you start to hear some of the stories of how they got involved in poor sexual behaviors, poor decision making, etc. Well, I had the opportunity to go work at a college at that point. And in my introduction to higher education, all I could think about was what I experienced in public health and what I experienced when I was in school. And I said, I have to do my best to kind of create some sort of program, platform, structure for Black men to not only be academically successful, but then also to be successful in their growth and development as a man. So I put that, I always had the main initiative locked in a vault, but I just had never brought it out. So probably about in 2017, Brother Cal, I met you in 2017. Yep, in December of 2017. So I'll say I brought it out February of 2017. And it was the main initiative, and it had been there for a long time. Males addressing issues and needs, and so what jump started that was an event called the Main Summit that was focused primarily on senior Black males in high school. So was providing that opportunity for seniors that were in high school. I said, well, I already work in higher education. I already have a program here for Black males in college. I said, but what about the Black men? And so that's where You Good Bro came about. So You Good Bro originally started out as just a convening in itself as a component of the main initiative, because the main initiative hadn't really morphed into a consulting space. So probably roughly after about a year, it was like, you know what, let's forget about this just being a convening. Let's go ahead and turn this thing into a nonprofit, into a movement. But in that whole entire process of it evolving, it had to be more flushed out and say, what is You Good Bro? It's not just a conversation. It's an opportunity for removing the mask, so to speak. Being locked in a room with brothers who just got off death row, brothers who are attorneys, brothers who are dealing with divorce, brothers who are dealing with sexual abuse, some brothers dealing with certain levels of trauma, murder, miscarriage. I mean, it's so many different things that brothers are experiencing. And so the question was like, okay, yo, you good, bro? And there's so many times if you see a brother, you say, yo, you good? You're going to say, yeah. But then you say, well, how things going at the crib? How things going on at the job? And they will go on a rant. You know what I mean? And essentially, you ain't good, bro. So let's talk this thing out. How can we work and get from one place to the next? How do we go from dialogue and conversation to application? And so that's essentially where You Good Bro comes from, is that essentially if somebody asks you good, bro, you can say yes and truly mean it.
Blessings. So I got a follow-up question. I know you're trying to jump out.
I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Well, thank you kindly.
And if y'all don't mind if I stop for a second, Brother David, I just want to say thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We all serve.
I was going to ask just a follow-up question. So how often or if you ask that question, what are some of the responses that you get? I know everybody does a lot of times do the polite answer, I'm good. But I mean, when you start to pull back the layers, like what are some of the main responses you might get from a man's truth or a boy's truth?
It varies truly upon age and what situation they may be experiencing at that present moment, because at that moment, it may be a relationship. It may be my wife. It may be my children. On the other end, you ask them about an hour later after they walked out of a meeting, it might be their job, So it varies. So I can't say that there's one specific thing. It's more so what's going on at that moment. And when we look at Black men especially, I mean, there are so many different things coming at us in so many different angles that, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep up, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but I would say what's most consistent, if I was to talk about boys, it's more about self-esteem, their social life, being able to be in a network, to not be ostracized and be outcasted. So it's whatever it takes to be with the in crowd, to not be excluded. As you get a little older, when you get into that higher education space, it's more so it goes from not just being in the in crowd, but more so about the behaviors that college males get involved in. So you're talking about certain levels of, or I guess if we go a little further about sex education, relationships, getting money. I mean, and then also I've seen something that's really been coming up quite often is this level of entitlement that's been coming up, and where there's a lot of young brothers who feel like they've been not been allowed to do what they want to do, and that they're starting to they are starting to see more men try to provide them with levels of wisdom and guidance, but they have been very, very resistant to it. Very resistant to it. So I've been seeing that a lot of beefing that's going on with that, that young adult to probably that even to almost that mid to late 20-year-old population. And then as you get, as we're getting older, you start to see where men are really being challenged with themselves, peeling back layers of things that they tucked away. That little boy inside of them, they're starting to deal with that now, and how it's impacting relationships, how it's impacting their ability to be good fathers, their ability to have a spiritual relationship, and then trying to repair broken relationships that they once had. It's a lot, and it's a lot of hurt that you start to see. What I've seen more as I start to engage with more older men that they don't want to hurt anymore. They want to be healed and they want to be whole, and they're looking for, what is the first step? How do I take that first step to being healed and whole?
Thank you for that. That is a part of my whole list of things that I'm looking to hear in this conversation today.
So Jazz, like when we are having these conversations, because you say you good, bro, mine is what's good, bro. Here we use the word what's good, bro.
Yeah.
The terminology is a draw, but what has happened is that, and we can have this conversation all day, but the system for the boy is what delays him becoming a man. So things that he's supposed to discover in his teens, he don't discover till he's 30.
Yeah.
Right. The system, when you talk about attacks, right, the system is ferociously after the boy. Now, who is in that system, right? And when we get into what the system is, right, it really, the word system, it has an acronym: save yourself time, energy, and money. That's what systems are supposed to do. And what has happened is this system is the opposite when it is predatory on that black and brown, beige, white boy. The system is very predatory, and it's not as forgiving. So my next question is for you: what do you do? Because I know she's gonna have another question for you, because she can pull questions out like Jim Brown, score touchdowns, right? Right. What do you do? What is it that you do for fun?
Oh man. As I've gotten older, brother, your hobbies change. You know what I mean? You go from being a young buck, man, being able to run that football, run that full 94 feet on that hardwood, man, or on that blacktop, right. To now, I can still play a little ball, man, but now things have changed to running, man. I actually enjoy some good cardio, man, putting some miles on. But then also, I enjoy some chess. I just got into golf, you know what I mean? So golf has been good, very therapeutic. But then also, I like the color too, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy that artsy side of things,
Right.
The creative side. Like sometimes when I'm out and about going on a walk or a run, and I look at the clouds and the way that God has created this space, you know what I mean, and marvel at that. Sometimes I try to find myself putting getting me a piece of paper, man, and getting me some markers and some colored pencils, and I'll get it in, man. I'll get it in. But aside from that, I like to read too. I like to read. I like to study my word, man. I'm not gonna lie. I like to study my word. I mean, we're doing a whole lot of that lately, and not just reading scripture, but just really understanding a lot more of what that Bible says and what it means and the context it comes from, and what is this word talking to me? What is it saying to me? How do I apply it?
Right.
Those are the things I'm really into right now, brother.
That's good, man. That's good to know that you are enjoying yourself, right? And doing some things. I'm trying to get back to running. I'm walking right now. I jumped out there, Jazz, a couple of days in a row.
Yeah.
Running, right?
Right.
And your man got around the corner like, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
And I just said, I'm just going to run around the block to start, right? Because I'm feeling good. I got me some New Balance. I'm going to do my thing.
For sure.
Man, I got halfway around the block. I know the guys on the other side of the street was looking at me like, Lord, we need to help this brother. It felt like I was carrying 5 people, bro. I said, okay, I'm going to have to delay this run game. You know what I mean? And stick to this walking for a while. But I most definitely want to get back to running. But that was, hey, man, I came in the second day. She was like, what's wrong? You'd have thought I was mugged the way I was looking. And I was like, oh, that, yeah, it ain't going to be so quick on that running.
Gotta pace yourself.
Gotta pace yourself.
Yeah.
I jumped right out there.
You go to running.
Yeah, I got to that, got around that corner. Man, it felt like I picked up 5 people.
Yeah.
Everything got happy. Anyway.
That's how it happened for me, brother. That's how it happened for me, man. I had to walk a mile and run an eighth of a mile.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it just picked up, man. I've had opportunity to even get as far, and that's how I know I enjoy running, because I get on a high, and I mean, being able to even do like a half marathon. You know what I mean? So that's been a blessing that God has given me, and I spent a lot of time with Him in the process.
Right.
He can speak to you, talk to you, and
Yeah. He's speaking real good right now these days.
yeah.
I'm getting great downloads. You know what I mean? And so, in looking at it, if anybody want to throw a question before I throw this next question, you might want to throw it.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to ask you, since you staying on the spiritual aspects of things, what made you decide you needed to have this conversion? Your moment where you were on the road to Damascus, and there was a change that brought you to the point of realizing that you're a spirit housed in a body, and recognize the importance that by reading God's word, you can begin to become that wise steward that He intended you to be, versus the young buck you talk about back in the day. Mm-hmm. Now insight and wisdom is starting to come to pass. So what ignited the transition spiritually?
Great question.
That's a great question, brother. That's a great question. I was raised in the church. My mother and father divorced when I was 7. My father wasn't raised in the church, and so when they split, obviously, we went with my mother, and I ended up being in a house with 10 women, being the only boy for a while. At my grandmother's house because of the divorce. And so during that time, me and my mother and my sister stayed in a room together. And she's the one who really taught me about Christ. Now, granted, I'm in that early ages of development. But over time, she kept me in Sunday school. She kept me in vacation Bible school, all of those things. I sang in the choir, all of that stuff. But I also was dipping and dabbing as I got older and some other stuff, and so as I continued to get older, I was also dealing with some hurt and anger, like I'm not even gonna say some, a lot of hurt and anger because of my father leaving. Very confused about a lot of things, but I can say that one of the things that kind of going back to my father in a sense, my father's the youngest of 5 men, he has 5 brothers. and I'm sorry, 4 brothers and 1 sister. He's the youngest of 5 boys. But they were very, very. There's one thing I can say is that they made sure I was very race conscious. My mother's from one of the poorest counties in the state of North Carolina, where it's predominantly black. And so when my mother and father split, I went to an environment that was because my father's 35 years in the army, so he's a retired MP. And so I spent about those first 7 years in like 5 different states, and the majority of the kids I grew up with and went to school with were either Asian or white. And to leave that space to go to a totally all black community and to finish my grade school, I knew what it was to live in a black community, but a poor black community. But I was more so tapped into racism because my father grew up in Virginia Beach, and his older brothers were a part of integration, the Black Panther movement, et cetera. So they pretty much kind of put me up on game when it came to discrimination, racism, and all of that. And so I also tapped in. I say all that to say because I tapped into also the nation at that point. I was a very strong, firm supporter, believer, and follower of Louis Farrakhan. Malcolm X is probably my first hero. It's my first hero. And so as I went to college, though, you go into college, you get exposed to all kinds of things, all kinds of religions, beliefs, thoughts, values, etc. I was in the process of going through conversion when I was in college to Islam. And I got in a jam. And while I was in that jam, I called out to Christ to help me. And he did. He came through. It immediately shifted me. It was like, oh yeah, there's nothing different. There's nothing better. This is exactly where I need to be. So because I was, being in that space, brother, you being exposed to, especially for race related matters, I was a very strong, and I if you don't mind me saying this on your show, I hated white folks. I hated white folks. My grandmother is a product of rape. You know what I mean? My great grandmother was raped by a white man, a slave master. That's how my grandmother, came about, obviously. But I used to remember growing up at times when I used to see my great grandmother engage with my grandmother. She used to be very hateful, very angry. Used to curse her out, things of that nature. I used to remember seeing my grandmother cry, and I didn't know until later on that my great grandmother had been raped. So that's how my grandmother came about. So in my head, my grandmother is not a product of love. My grandmother is a product of hate.
Rape. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I know that in a sense where my great grandmother was in a space like, this is my daughter, but this ain't who I asked for. You know what I mean? This is, so I processed it from a space of like, you white folks is crazy. These white folks not just crazy, but they're hateful, they're evil. And I was really, really charged up for the fact of how white folks had used Christianity as a means to justify their wrongdoings. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so as time went on, like I said, my dad and his brothers, they really exposed me to a lot of Black nationalism. And I became a student. But I know that when I was going through that process of conversion and I got caught in the jam and I called out for Christ. I didn't call out for Allah. I called straight out to Christ, and just like that, it switched. The jam I was in, he let me up out of that joint.
Praise God.
And so and as time went on, I had some more healing to go through, and I was on my couch, man, about to blow my brains out. I had a shotgun, and it was about to be a wrap, and I heard him plain as day. He was like, "Nah, I got more work for you to do."
There you go.
Blessings.
Yes, it is. Praise God.
So this is one of those did you knows, right? Because I love information. Mm-hmm. Did you know there were 66,000 rape babies born last year?
No.
66,000. That rape increased after the Roe versus Wade thing gets shut down. It is a reason why it is a reason why we, in our work, Jazz, we work with the males.
Right.
And it's a reason why that our work is always important to raise the protection so our young men become men, husbands, and fathers, so this doesn't be a factor. Right? I am grateful to say that all my boys are husbands and fathers. I say it all the time with my chest out. Right? Because that was the intent of the work since I was 20. And so I say that to you not just to cause you to pour on, but to enlighten you to know that this situation that you and I are talking about, in the situation that you just talked about with your, right, that we have to continue to put down more prevention and intention with our males, so that's one thing that we can take off the table for the culture, right? For the male culture, we have to be the ones to take rape off the table, right? Because, just from a mindset of men, it is very weak, in my opinion, for you to take something that they would most definitely, upon the right measures, give it to you. You know what I mean? And I never understood that, so I threw that at you for that reason. This next question is actually one of the things that I love to ask, right? And if you could start all over, Jazz, your hoop game being like LeBron, your football game being like Bo Jackson.
Great visuals.
Right. If you could start all over, right?
Yeah.
What would you do different, bro?
If I could start all over again with all of the information and knowledge and everything I got right now.
Yeah. What would you do different?
Now, if I can ask it, because you're right, I'm very inquisitive, so I'll ask a lot of questions. It's interesting being on the other side of answering questions versus asking questions. So, are we talking about for career, or are we talking about just life in general and the direction?
Whatever you select, brother, it is your choice.
I'll give it to you twofold. I would not have blamed my mother for my father leaving.
Okay.
When my mother and father divorced, because I mentioned that Malcolm X was my first hero. Truthfully, I take that back. My father was.
Okay.
And when he left, I don't know. I'm 7, but I remember telling my mother. I remember days going out the door to go to school, to get on the bus, crying every day, telling my mother I hated her because my father wasn't there. So in my head, it was something that my mother must have done for him to leave. Because in my mind, people weren't staying around. In my my little pea brain, I'm thinking, well, you must have done something for him to leave, because it's just like a scary movie or something. When a monster comes, you run. So I'm like, well, Mom, you must be the monster for him to go. So if I could do that all over again, I wouldn't have never told my mother that I hated her or accused her as being the reason why my father left. As opposed to asking my dad, because I never asked my dad. I never asked my father why he left. I never did. And I remember for years on years, I mean, my mother took about 10 years or so for her to date again and to get remarried. And I remember her saying that, your dad's going to come back. Your dad's going to come back. Your dad's going to come back. The only time that dude showed up was a couple times where he, at that time he showed up. He never necessarily. He showed up, halfway for him and my mother to meet for me and my sister to get, exchanging hands.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that sticks out all the time, and I still apologize to my mother to this day, for 30 plus years of just telling her I hated her, because I remember every time I told her I hated her, she looked at me, she said, Jazz, but I love you. And so, but on the flip side, man, because of that, one of the things, and I still do this to this day, is I love to write. So I never would have. My first love was writing. I always wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
I always wanted to be a journalist. Even to this day, I flirt around with whether or not I should, maybe get a blog going or something.
Right.
I just love to write. I enjoy being able to put pen to pad and make life come together. I remember when I was in 8th grade, man, I wrote for the school newspaper. I remember like yesterday, I wrote about the championship game of my junior high school for football, and I remember like I wrote the article with the end, starting with the end, and gave you a whole snapshot from that morning to getting off the bus, eating breakfast, going throughout the whole day, all the way to the last seconds, man. And they posted that joint, man, in the citywide newspaper. That whole article that I had wrote up, man, and just from there I continued to write school newspaper, high school, college. Then it got into, as I got older, when you were reading the bio, so it's Title IX. So Title IX is interesting. You were talking about rape, and just, sexual discrimination and all that kind of stuff. So I write a few legal documents for my job as well.
Okay.
Right now, so all that to say, I'd have been a journalist, man. I'd have been a journalist. So Stephen A. Smith, Sports Illustrated, all of that.
So that's what you would do if you would do different.
Oh yeah, man. And I would take the passion that I have right now for working with black men and boys. Oh man, I would change the game.
Okay.
Publication after publication, book after book. Trying to follow your lead in that authorship. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm coming, bro, and I appreciate you saying that. It's and I always say, my wife is one of my big motivators, but I often say when I'm writing, that the passion from me writing in the stories, because there are stories. I got a bunch of them, right? Because I have lived 4 lifetimes, and I'm very proud that the one lifetime I kept my hands to the plow. Luke 9:62, and for the truth of the matter is, I'm glad you chose those things that you just talked about, or what you would do different if you could do it all over again. Because that's very, very important for us to understand that you don't always have to go back to go forward. You know what I mean? That everything that you want to do, you still can do. We're young. I turned 60. I'll be turning 60 on September 14th.
Nah.
Yes, sir. And I'm telling you.
That's a blessing, brother.
Yes, sir. And I'm telling you that I feel like I'm just getting started. And when I say that, it's that when you talk about God and how God has really been a blessing, every one of us in this room on this podcast has an unbelievable God story. Mm-hmm. Every last one of us. Dave did 37 years in the military and mentored thousands, right? So, Heather, 30 some odd years of just work in the community, the whole nine. So it's not like there's not a vast knowledge of information. We're just taking the footprint and moving it forward, because the one thing, what started me on this vision is the one quote, "Time is all that we have to change what we are." You was destined to be sinful. You was destined to be a vagabond, a broken man, or circumstances was going to paint those pictures. And look what time has done for you. Right? And so when we have the opportunities that we always have to value that. This is the last thing that you have to do for us before they, Heather going to fire off with another question or two. As a matter of fact, go ahead and fire your question before we have him do the closing.
I don't know how much time I have.
You got
to ask my question.
12 minutes.
Okay, so first I want to say thank you for sharing, because everything you have shared about what you enjoy and parts of your journey, I'm looking around the room and wow, that's Dave. Wow, that's Calvin. Even our producer, she over here and deeply engaged in your sharing, right? All of us. And when you said when you're walking and you look at the clouds and you want to capture that, like that and the coloring, you really touched me. I just wanted to share that right quick. I was when I was talking to Calvin about you, of course he said wonderful things, and I read your bio, and what came to my mind were the gaps that boys, men, husbands, and fathers, is how I look at it, that are in those spaces, and how so much of your work is a part of the filling of the gap. Now, do you have the need? I know mentorship is one thing, but cultivating a protege to understand, to take what you have learned and your wisdom to take it to the next level. Do you find that in your family? Do you find that? I'm not sure if you had children. I'm not sure if we had that conversation.
Yeah, we got to get this brother locked down.
But do you find that, have you found that in either one or many that you have been able to pour into and see that they have the potential to take this to the next level? Have there been people, or intentionally on your journey, who you have poured back into to take it to the next level?
Yeah, I say that every young man that I come across, I try to give them everything that I have, in hopes that they all would take at least a small part of it and apply it. And mistakes as well, and being very transparent about my mishaps, my missteps, where I failed at, owning up, even if it's me owning up to something that I did. Hopefully they'll take that along with them as well, as to, hey, if you did something wrong, you need to address it and rewrite a wrong. Then you just gotta man up and handle it that way. To answer your question, I don't have anyone in particular right now that I'm intentionally shaping and forming. I do have some who are a little more gravitational to me than others, and I can tell, so I do pour into them as much as I can. But I'll say, sister, that any young man that I come across, 5 years old to 25 years old, 35 years old, I give what I can. I give what I can, and I'm actually starting to see. But there's some older brothers. It's like Brother Cal, I think you just said you don't have to go back to go forward. I know some older brothers, older than I am, that are working through some things that I've been able to pour into them. So I think that what God has given me, I've been able to help those individuals to get from one place to where they are right now further along. Those young ones, they followed up behind me. I have some older ones who are a lot further than I am in certain areas, but then there's some other places that they're not. And a lot of it has to do with, how do I find my place in helping Black men and boys outside of what they do on a day-to-day basis, that gives them a connection to the community, that gives them a connection to the youth, that gives them a connection to being engaged and helping to develop the minds of other Black boys and Black men, in a sense.
Thank you for that. It's
I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, and the follow-up that came to me was about paying it forward. We have to, sometimes that has to be taught. You have to be taught how to pay it forward, and what that really means is, what I poured into you, I poured into your cup so it overflows, and so that overflow should be poured into the next person's cup. We have to teach that mindset in our culture, and I think that's a really important part of this journey, especially the journey of manhood, because it's just much needed. As a mother of a son as well, it is much needed. They need that, and then that whole entitlement that you mentioned earlier. Just what are some of the tools and ways that you've seen to help our younger men get through that entitlement space? if you could have, any advice on how to help them move to that entitlement space.
Yes, ma'am. I'll say that a good part of it is to let them fall in their face. Yeah, you want to be a man. You want to step out with no guidance, no leadership, no direction, no wisdom. And hey, go ahead, step on out there. Then I'll be here when you get back, but just don't say I didn't tell you on the front end. But then in the same vein, I do value giving them the opportunity to, all right, what you're displaying is entitlement, but you think it's leadership. You think it's that you've gotten your stripes, you've grown your wings. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put you in a position of what leadership is. Let me put you in a position of where now you have to be the end all be all. If it goes good, it falls on everybody else. You recognize them, but if it doesn't work, then you gotta wear that. You gotta wear that that shame, or you gotta man up and say that things didn't go well, so I got to take the heat for this, being a leader. So I try to give it like a healthy balance, Yeah, you go fall on your face, go ahead, jump out there. You don't want to listen, go. But then I have another set that I'm like, you know what? Let's see if we can turn this entitlement into something positive, And so that's what's really worked for me, is that, let's just see what you made of. Right.
Brother Dave.
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking there's a lot of things running in my head. But I guess the big thing here is that you are a voice in the wilderness. And because you're a voice in the wilderness, they're going to hear your voice again. You're planting the seeds of mentorship, which will move into discipleship. And as they move from discipleship, they'll move back to leadership. So keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference. And that's what it's about. We are here to be a difference and make a difference. And as long as you keep on the spiritual journey, God will give you the guidance, direction, all the resources you need. The Holy Spirit will strengthen you, prepare you, develop you, and mature you so you can be that person, as Dr. Heather said, paying it forward. And there's one thing I want to put out too. I've never seen a man build muscle without having muscle torn down. So we all have to get that muscle torn down. We all find ourselves in a position where failures, if you want to call them that, I think they're a prerequisite to success, because if you don't try, it can't make it happen. And you have to go through that trial and tribulation. Calvin is a great mentor, a great coach, and he's mentored many, many young men and boys, and even, as you said, seasoned people. I don't like old, so I think I'm the oldest person here. So, so I call myself seasoned. What are you playing? I got that salt. But with that being said, again, he's put a lot out there, and that's why we're all here. And because of that, these young men, these people, I watched one of our young boys, JoJo, who 1 minute was just a violin of complaints, and now he's a pillar of salt. He's standing strong. And that's because of that leadership. And he hears Calvin. Now he hear my voice too. He hears that voice that says, once you couldn't do it, now you can do it. Now teach somebody else how to do it.
Yeah. The before you go, brother, because what you just said is real. I need you to look into the camera, tell us your name, and say, encourage me, I'm young.
This is Jasmine Spain signing off in Greenville, North Carolina. Encourage me, I'm young.
Thank you.
Blessings.
So Jazz, we really appreciate you. I'm going to be sending something your way, because we're getting ready to kick off right when you was talking about the Title IX. We're getting ready to kick off a brand for women on August 31st. That from the EMIY apparel line, just specifically for the women athletes, the whole nine, a complete movement. And I'm gonna need you to, as many women as you know, as many powerful women you have within your possession, to share it with, because I need them to literally purchase it, get involved with it. So we can multiply, and we're connecting it to the Black and missing and women. So this is full blown, as every time we push that we're going to support. So we're going at the sororities, the fraternity, everybody, Anybody has a daughter, right? Because one of the questions I asked, you know, and my mother said when I was growing up, she was like, you can't be part of the problem. You got to be a solution, just like me. And my mother used to help prostitutes off the street. She set my Uncle Junior's pimp game all the way down. My Uncle Junior he was the first pimp on 8 Mile. She put him out of business, brother. And I laugh often because for the people that knows my mom, right? When my mom passed away, you would have thought it was a dignitary. There were so many people, lives that she had affected. And I'm talking about from getting people elected to people, like there were so many things that she did coming from where she come from. I too, like you, have some of the same experiences when my mother and father divorced. I fought to go with my daddy wherever. I couldn't tell her because she had a daddy that was 6'5", so I couldn't tell my mama I hate her because my grandfather was a plumber. He wouldn't been buying that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, none of us and all of us, out of my brothers and sisters, that's why we doing this movement. And so I'm gonna reach out to you before August 31st. I'm dropping the op-ed immediately when I get back to the office, and we're gonna start this work. For the women, we're going to continue the work that I do with the boys, the men, the husbands and fathers. But this T-shirt, this apparel, is for them, right? And it's for them to take it and run with it and prosper from it. But I wanted to make sure that we was doing something about missing black women and children. And so thank you for coming on.
Let me say something to him real
quick.
For it. I got a question for you. One more question. You good, bro? I won't forget that saying, brother.
No doubt.
Yep, so I appreciate you, man. And thanks for coming on. Next week, we're going to have another designer in the building. My friend and brother, Fly Kool-Aid, great story. Kool-Aid called me for his brother and bought a Good Fathers Only and put it on his brother and changed his brother's whole life. So we're going to really get into it next week. And he's the designer and good brother, very good brother. With that being said, peace out, brother. I appreciate you, man.
It's been an honor, brother.
Blessings. Thank you.
So today we learned about, as I'm always doing, right, that the resources, which are people, we have to multiply, share the people, give people lanes into your lane that they can be seen and shared. And know, right? Because it don't do good for you to have these connections in your phone, but we don't share them with the world. And I think that's part of what we're doing going forward. This Put Your Family First is not just. There's some other things I want to do. I want to start literally videotaping our sessions while we're live and have people and other cameras in the room where we get different angles and things like that, where we take this to another level. But I say this with everything, right? All the work that we all do has to be for the family restoration, right? If I'm working with boys, it has to be to get him to be a family member, family person, family guy, right? Because the culture, we're not having babies too. So when we think about that, 1 in 3 30-year-olds are not even having sex. So what is that saying about how we're raising our culture and our people, and how do we celebrate them and validate them, right? And so my hope is going forward that I continue to pull people out of my phone and introduce them to the world, because there are some really quality, unbelievable people doing great work, and we have to share them with the world. Right. With that being said, my name is Dr. Calvin T. Mann. Oh no, Heather, where can I reach you at?
You can reach me at yourinspired with the D, yourinspiredjourney.com, and by phone at 313-759-7855.
Brother Dave?
You can reach me at FM For Men About Men on Facebook, and you can reach me at drome7@yahoo.com.
You can reach me at calvintman.com. Jasmine, I'm going to be plugging Heather into the database with you as well for them women that needs coaching and things like that. She's very good at changing women's lives. With that being said, I thank you all for tuning in. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young. Peace. Mm-hmm.
It's all about